Itamar. Thank you very much for joining me on the Security Space podcast today. What we will be discussing is how to integrate Gen AI safely. Now, that will all make sense once Itamar gives a introduction to himself and to prompt security. So, Itamar, please take it away. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey up to this point, if that's all right?
Sure, Nick. Thanks for inviting me. Pleasure being here. Nice to meet you all. Itamar, the CEO and co-founder of Prompt Security. Originally, like back then, almost 15 years ago, I started to play with math and its implications on computers and products, algorithmics. Back then, we didn't name it as, AI, artificial intelligence. It was more about statistics and machine learning. And did my bachelor's in computer science, and then my master's and thesis specifically in deep neural nets. And most of my career, I kind of built AI-based system for cybersecurity organizations such as Checkpoint and Orca Security, trying to understand how to utilize the power of AI to build better security. And apparently, you could. If you use the power of big data and statistics and the ability of the computer to understand patterns in vast amount of data, this is something that is not scalable with humans. So it was pretty productive. And I think around 4 years ago, when I took more and more models to production, and suddenly it wasn't like some linear regression, it was more about deep neural net. And sometimes it started to generate stuff a little bit before the LLMs era. I started to feel that something is changing beneath the ground. I started to feel this tectonic shift, and I understood that in a very close moment in time, anyone in any company is going to adopt AI massively into his workflows. Not only the most sophisticated tech folks like at the past, but even some marketeer going to ChatGPT and using it for revising its content. And then I decided, as a fellow which comes from the incumbents, I knew that a designated security solution is needed to help all of those enterprises and people to adopt AI and to get into the AI era while still remaining safe.
Nice, nice. So you were doing AI before AI even exploded. Well, people seem to think that AI only came about in the last sort of 12 to 24 months, don't they? 'Cause when it hit the mainstream. But like you say, it's been around for a lot longer, hasn't it?
I'm always saying that I'm doing AI before it was cool. Yeah, when we were in the basement and nobody counted us. Yeah, definitely.
You're a
Actually, the
trendsetter.
first academic papers of deep neural nets, which are the basic architecture of all the large language models we are seeing today, they are from the 50s. So
Yeah.
it's a very ancient thing.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So, talk to me actually about the day when prompt security came to fruition. Like, did you wake up one day and was like, "There's a gap in the market here. I'm going to go for it," or was it a chance encounter with with your co-founder? Talk to me about when it came to fruition then.
Interesting. So, no, it was definitely a process. I think it started around 4 years ago, a little bit more than that, which I looked at the landscape and I saw the slope and the pace, and I understood that something like that need to become a reality. But back then I didn't have a founder, like a co-founder, so I was on my own. And second, I knew that the market is not mature enough
Mm.
because it's a very complicated thing in startups in general. You want to be the first to market, or at least one of the first, but at the same time, you don't want to be too early
Mm.
because then the buyer is not ready. So you need to time it very, very precisely. And then again, I had this combination of no founder and not enough maturity in the market. And I think the best indication for that is if you are going to if you're sampling randomly, I don't know, 10 CISOs, chief of security in companies, and you ask them, do you mind about the security implications of AI? Would you care about it enough in order to allocate budget for it? So I think back then the answer was correct or true only for 1 out of 100 CISOs, which says that the market is not ready for it. So I waited for founding both the co-founder and the market circumstances, and then I joined Orca, and I've met Lior. So one of the checkboxes was Mark, and then we saw a little bit before the ChatGPT or application hype when it became dominant for any one of us in the role. I think a little bit before of it, we started to play with LLMs as part of our product that we built, and we saw the potential. It wasn't perfect back then. It wasn't even GPT-3, but we saw that something big is happening. And more than the absolute value, we saw that this is being changing and improving on a weekly basis. So that was around 2 years ago, maybe just a little bit more. And then I kind of decided that I'm about to leave, to raise my seed round, to bring all the talent we knew from the past,
Yep.
and to co-found Prompt. So it was a gradual process of which was especially built on finding the right timing for the
Yeah.
market. I wanted to be one of the first, but not too early.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I say, timing is absolutely key for numerous reasons. Like I say, I speak with, early stage vendors all across sort of Europe and the US, and a lot of it is timing and not necessarily the creation, but then essentially like, okay, we're a European vendor and we're gonna go for the States when we get X, Y, Z. It's like, well, are you ready for that? Or do you need sort of another 12 months to work on the product, whatever it might be? Timing's very key when you're sort of growing sort of a product. So that's, yep, it makes perfect sense. A really good point. So talk to me about what you guys actually do then.
The proof is in the pudding. Yeah. Um, so I think AI is impacting organizations in so many ways. But today, if we talk in the scope of security and data privacy, in my opinion, there are two main areas you need to be aware of. One, and this is, I would say, the last surprising thing, is the fact that uh, any people in the world, no matter what they do, if it's a developer, a marketeer, somebody from the finance, any one of us is using it already and probably would use it much more later on. We all knew it from ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude, but in Prompt, for example, we have a shadow AI mechanism that we detect dynamically any use of GenAI by one of your employees. And only on our customer base, dynamically, we've detected almost, I think, 10,000 already, maybe more than that. So it's simply everywhere, and not only the pure ChatGPT. Even normal SaaS tools like Notion and Canva and Monday, all of those are embedding co-pilots within them, which are utilizing AI behind the scenes. So that's like the first value proposition we give to our customers. Let's understand which AI is being used. We deliver this inventory and audit logs, like Nick is going to Gemini with a certain prompt in a certain time, and maybe violating a certain policy. And indeed, on top of it, they can define granular policies of what is a legitimate interaction between an employee and a GenAI application. And by the way, this can be very granular and depending on the employee and the application. It's one thing that the CEO is going to ChatGPT. It is a bit different than one of the marketeers going to some less credible AI tool out there. So any one of those tuple combinations, you can allocate accordingly a policy that we enforce in real time. So if we detect a violation, we can act in line, we can redact the message, we can block it, we can pop up an educational message to the employee. So that's like one side of the coin, and this is becoming very, very prominent today with tools like Microsoft Office 365 and GitHub Copilot for developers, which essentially are sending all the time your data to some external source. So you want to have this policy in place being enforced. That's the first part of prompt, which we call prompt for employees or for developers, practically governing employees. The other side of the moon is a little bit different in paradigm, because if we are using conservative security tools, I don't know if our audience is very familiar with security terminologies. So I would keep it very shallow. But the first part of prompt is kind of a DLP or endpoint security dedicated for AI. The other side of prompt is essentially a WAF, a web application firewall that is protecting the Gen AI applications you are building. Not necessarily training an LLM from scratch. You can use an OpenAI API or Mistral or Claude. But if you build an LLM-based application around it, and you're exposing your data through some chat interface to the external world, then you are exposed to a lot of new threats. Some of them are written in the OWASP Top 10 for LLM, which I co-authored, like prompt injection and jailbreaks and harmful responses and all of those. So we are this semantic layer that is inspecting all the traffic in and out and making sure that any unlegitimate prompt or response, by the way, not only in the textual realms, it could be images and audio and video soon. Anything which is potentially malicious or sensitive is being blocked by us. So together, if we combine the whole story, no matter if it's your employee through the browser going to some Shadow AI, or your developer writing code with GitHub Copilot, or your product team building a GenAI application which is exposed externally, everything in all of those protocols and all of those touch points will be inspected by prompt in real time, and we will block and intervene wherever it's less legitimate and potentially malicious.
Very interesting, very interesting. And I'm starting to think, how has this not took over the world yet? Because clearly there is a massive need for this. With, like you say, every man and his dog is using an AI tool in some way, shape, or form now. So who who's sort of your guys' ICP in the sense of, like, because this appeals to everyone. I speak to some vendors, whether it's sort of like data analytics and toolings, and therefore they tend to go for sort of like the FS sector, the banking sector, where it's analysing sort of a company's security posture. With this, like you say, we've mentioned, very widely used, like your Chat GPT, Gemini, Claude. Everyone's using that. Like, even like I have family members that do that, like you say, just for marketing purposes. So how do you guys actually find a place in the market and have an ICP? Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. ICP in both aspects, by the way, both the company, maybe the industry, the vertical, and also the buyer.
Yeah.
The buyer isn't that trivial like it used to be with security. Usually, when you sold security tools, you went to the CISO.
Yeah.
But for example, in the web application firewall aspect of prompt, when you are protecting the GenAI applications the product or R&D team is building, the CISO is not necessarily the only buyer. It might be the CTO, it might be the CIO, the head of AI. So even the act of the buyer is a little bit more ambiguous today. But in terms of an ICP, in a way, it's everyone. Okay, and I know it's a bad answer. As a CEO and as a company, especially when you build your go-to-market, you need to have focus. But for real, I've been in multiple companies before. Sometimes you have a very clear ICP, and sometimes anyone is kind of interested in that. I would say that if we combine into the equation the ROI and my team resources, in closing each of those deals, considering the actual return at the end, then we see the best, I would say, ROI in heavy regulated industries like finance and pharma and insurance and legal, and essentially any big enterprise with a lot of employees or a lot of intellectual property which could go to waste. Then we see a very unique combination. They are eager to adopt AI, although conservatively, those are pretty conservative companies. They
Yep.
are not eager to adopt always new technologies at day one, but they understand they must do it in order to stay competitive and relevant and to
Mm.
reduce costs and resources, especially in those market circumstances. So we see huge companies suddenly doing like massive AI reforms in like 4 months, which is
Yeah.
something we've never seen before. And in the same breath, they are very worried about the security and data privacy and compliance implications. So a tool like Prompt is like a great fit for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense. So, just a question on the tech side of things then. So, I wanted to ask you essentially, when it comes to AI, security vendors working in security and AI and security, whichever way you want to look at it, whether you are sports vendors such as AIM Security or Cyabra or Active Fence, there's like you say, there's a lot more. The timing's right now for an AI security products to come into the market like Prompt. And when I speak to them, education is a very big thing for when they're getting across to both their customers, but then also when they're getting across to the product teams as well. Education is key. Um, so my question to yourself is, how do you integrate sort of Gen AI apps safely? Because, like you say, a lot of it is education, a lot of it is building the product, and a lot of it is the amount of data and then sensitive data that you're putting into your product. It's a lot. And how do you scale that while scaling a startup? There's a lot going on, and how do you grow safely is my question in a roundabout way. Does that make sense as well? That was a bit clunky, that.
No, I think it makes sense. Um, it is a very, very moving target. Your there is terminology in startups. I guess most of you are aware of it, known as product market fit. And I'm always questioning myself, how can I find a product market fit? Although we feel today that we have a product market fit because when we are pitching our product and demoing our product to a random company, we get feedbacks, positive feedbacks we've never seen before with any other company or product we've sold in the past. So it feels like we have a product market fit, but how can you really tailor product market fit when the market is always changing? AI is always changing, always evolving. This market is being evolving on a daily basis. So you kind of need to build something inherently by the nature of the company, by the nature of the DNA of the people, which is innovative by definition, which is evolving by definition. And it's very, very hard to keep an high level of execution on one end to build a solution that is an enterprise grade, that you can sell it to Fortune 500, and still you might started to build this feature like 4 months ago because only then Anthropic released Claude for desktop. So this is a very challenging circumstances and landscape to work on top, but we don't have any other option. Uh, I don't know if that's the right answer for you,
Yeah,
but
no, absolutely. It's
in
what's
a
been said before, yeah.
in a way we need to more than anything build the right culture and to bring the right people and folks which understand we need to execute very fast, very precisely, and still remain very open-minded.
Yep. Yep.
And usually it's kind of a trade-off, but we need to live in this trade-off.
Absolutely. Like you say, especially around Obviously, when you talked about innovation there, we know that obviously Israel in itself is an innovation. They're at the front of security in innovation, and a lot of the times these new let's use Wiz as the common example, just for the benefit of the audience. Like there is a multitude of reasons as to why Wiz has got such a massive success at the moment. Of course, there is, but partly down to it is the fact that they have been so innovative in the sense of they've got like the cloud security posture management, data security posture management. It's kind of like a spin-off of cloud security, data security, and it's created another little sub vertical. Now, how they obviously get a bit of their success is okay, well, you've got to go to your VCs and you've got to produce a case study. Okay, why are you guys so incredible and why should we give you billions and billions of pounds? And well, if you can't fall back on the case study of your product, okay, what do the VCs then look at? Well, they look at the team, don't they? They look at okay, have you guys got the people in the team that can then get you to this success if you can if your product doesn't have the literally the history because it's only been around for 12, 24 months. So that's what you fall back on. So what you were saying there, I completely understand the fact that like, look, we're building the car whilst driving it, and okay, you've just got to sort of like go with it, and like you say, we've got the people to do it, and like you say, that's how you sort of get to the destination. Which segues perfectly to my next question, is more, and it is you guys obviously came out of stealth pretty much at the start of this year. Was that correct? You got your seed round back in January. Is that correct? How
Yeah,
has
though as we speak, probably when this episode is going to be live, we're already announcing our Series A round.
Oh
Yeah.
well, let me say congratulations on that. Well, that probably highlight. I was about to say, how's the first year gone? But obviously, it sounds like it's gone okay. But tell me, how's the first year gone for you guys?
Of course, it was like hectic. Any startup, any baby in the first year is very challenging and hectic, but relatively speaking, we had a very um, successful year, both in like product maturity, both in like winning most of our bake-offs in POCs. Because as a CEO, you always feel like your product is not good enough, but then in the field it meets other candidates, your competitors, and when you win them you understand that you may be not perfect but you are the best right now, and most importantly, as the one leading the business, plenty of customers from very like different verticals and styles, and we already have a few Fortune 500 companies. So it's super exciting to see that those giant, empires are interested in your product. Um, and the revenue is increasing correlatively, of course. So I have no complaints. Relatively a good year, which led us to raise the big Series A round right now. Help me scale up the R&D team, make sure we are keeping ourselves, ahead of the market and innovative and still very high end on the product. And on top of it, to distribute prompt better, especially in North America. You talked about Wiz. So I came from Orca. I'm very familiar with those bubbles. I think that product in any company, in any security company in particular, is very important. But not less important of it, while you build your moat and uniqueness, is to build the best go-to-market motion, and that's a mix of brand awareness. It's a mix of thought leadership and field marketing and good sales process. So this is something I would say cautiously that Israeli companies sometimes lead in technology but struggle on the go-to-market space. And I'm trying here to build something different that would put a lot of emphasis on the go to market as well.
Mm, mm. Yeah, like you say, an absolute combination of things because like again just to go back to the Wiz example again, like it's obviously not just their product, like it's not, and it's obviously not just the team, like, then you've got to look at like the marketing was it was simple but effective. The time in what you said at the start, everything was right for it. So but yeah, no, it sounds like you guys have had a great first year. The fact that you, like you say, you're able to get your Series A sort of within the first 12 months, which is, you know, fantastic to hear. And again, just to echo your point previous in the podcast, sounds like you guys have got some customers because you have such a varied ICP, and it's been able to sort of help you guys grow as well. So just wanted to take it back a step and just actually ask you a few questions around sort of the policies and procedures that you guys might come up against because, like you say, the frameworks these days, I'm sure that they are getting written as we speak with AI because, like you say, it's so new. So can that pretty much derail sometimes a massive project that you guys are working on? Because you can be like, have this project, work on it, and all of a sudden this legislation drops out of nowhere, and you're like, oh, okay, well that wasn't around when we signed the paper to agree this project. Am I being quite naive in that, and obviously you get a little bit more heads up than just finding out overnight, or can it sometimes happen where legislations come through and it can really affect your line of work?
Definitely, and this relates heavily to our previous discussion. It can be legislation, it can be some regulation, it could be maybe some open AI development. A lot of moving parts that suddenly can affect dramatically your company. I can share with you that you can mitigate those eureka events using a better relationship with the community. And I would give you one example. Today, we are very close with Gartner. We are very close with a lot of the regulation thinking groups. In the EU, there is something coming up very soon. I think the first phase is going to be enforced on already in February 2025. It's the EU AI Act, which suddenly derives a few do's and do not do's regarding AI in companies, starting from relatively high level stuff and going towards very concrete, very practical measures. I think that most of the people, from my perspective, yeah, I feel it's going to be like the next GDPR, which
Yeah.
affected dramatically companies on steroids because the timeline is faster, the volume of the fines are higher, um, and you can stay on the sidelines, you know, build your product, sell your tools, and suddenly to witness this regulation coming and you're found yourself unprepared. But we took the other path. We are very intimate with them. We helping them with the legislation. We are learning from them. We see where it is going for. And therefore, not only that we wouldn't be surprised when it will arrive, Prompt is going to be probably one of the first players in the market to offer designated features to address this legislation. So you can use it as even as an advantage and not as a nature surprise.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to sort of ask you. Like, can it, does it help you or does it inhibit you? And I suppose it's a bit of both. But like you say, because you guys are sort of getting ahead of the curve and one of the first players in this market, like you say, you can kind of get ahead of it and work in unison with it. So, one of my final questions is what sort of trends do you expect to see in the AI security industry in the next 12 months, in the next 3 years, in the next 5 years? Is it too far to even look into the future to even put a prediction there? What trends are we should we be on the lookout for tomorrow?
I'm always saying that predictions are for the fools. Um, as a CEO of a startup, I'm usually building plans like for 3 months ahead, maybe 6 months ahead, not much more than that. I think with AI specifically, it's going to change our life so dramatically, not so much in the long term as some of us are thinking. I personally believe that in 5 years, all the market is going to be seen very differently. I'm already seeing a lot of, you asked about trends. So I'm witnessing today a few companies, big companies that are building farms of AI agents, which are currently a little bit cranky, but they are getting better all the time. And I think we are not far from AI agents replacing some of the customer support and some of the marketing and some of the SDR and sales. And of course, the same goes for developers and engineers. Um, and this is a big event. This is not something to ignore. It will impact dramatically the economy. And if we are talking about AI security specifically, so as you integrate more and more AI within your companies and culture, and you integrate it with company assets like more data of the enterprise and assets of the company, databases, code execution, cloud accounts, etc., the potential threat is getting higher. Of course, the potential gain is immense, but in the same breath, the potential threat is getting higher, and they would need, while they are earning the gains from it, while they are earning the gain from AI proliferating in the organization and generating value, they would need to build those security layers in parallel to make sure it's not becoming a devastating event in parallel. So that's one trend. I'm seeing AI agents proliferation and probably some replacement of positions we knew from the past. I don't think that those people are going to stay without a job. They're going to do something differently. Like to be a developer in 2025, it's not the same as it was in the past. Today, you are mostly like writing comments as a product manager, and GitHub Copilot is generating the code for you. So that's like one side of the coin. And I think that beyond it is hard to predict. I would say that LLMs are going to become probably near AGI, sorry, from things that are generating common knowledge from the past to something that is generating value, that is generating new ideas. Today, I think it's the main gap of things like ChatGPT. If you ask it about politics or history, it's probably going to tell you facts much better than most of your friends because it has embedded all the common knowledge of the world and it's generating answers very fast. But if you would ask it for a novel idea, tell me a new law in physics, write me a new product in Python, which will be very successful in the market, then we see it fail because it's kind of encapsulation of all the humanity knowledge, looking backwards, but nothing very innovative, nothing very novel. And that's the next big phase. Although here, I'm not sure it's a matter of months or even 3-4 years. It might take a little bit more than that, but that's known in the literature as the singularity point, when the computer would generate ideas, novel ideas that we've never thought about, like new medicine, new mathematics laws, etc. Then everything is going to be seen very, very differently, and then prompt would probably won't be relevant anymore.
It's exciting but scary. Exciting but scary. But it's fine. Thank you very much for sharing all your expertise on the podcast today. If anybody has any questions at all for what Itamar raised today, or would just like to check out what Prompt Security do, I'll be sure to put all the link and the information down below. But once again, Itamar, thank you for coming on the podcast.
My pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.